Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I want to start off today's video by sending out 3 quick shout outs. It's Donald, his wife Angela, and their daughter Jordan. Now, let me explain this. Anybody that knows me personally knows where I work at, and I have worked there for many years, so I know a lot of people from working there, but a lot of them I see, on a regular basis, once a week, twice a week, at least once every 2 weeks. So I know their face, but I don't know their name. Well, that's how it is with Angela and Jordan. I've seen them at my job, it seems like at least once every 2 or 3 weeks for years, but never knew their name. Then the other day they popped up on my people you may know thing on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I know her. And then I, sent her a friend request and told her I had a YouTube page now, so the mama subscribed, the daughter subscribed, and then she told me to send her husband a friend request, so I did. So he subscribed, and they're all 3 sports fans, and they're Clemson fans. So glad to have y'all on board. Please spread the word. Help the page continue to grow. Thank you so much for subscribing. Now on to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about college football, since it is a Saturday and we have a lot of action coming up today. But before I get into all the games today, let me quickly start out by talking about the Clemson game last night, because it was another ugly win. But I think it's obvious by now, 6 games into the season, that Clemson's offense, it may show a little improvement on a weekly basis, but I think it's obvious now that somewhere between 17 and 27 points is what this offense is going to put up on a weekly basis. Now, there might be a game where the defense forces a lot of turnovers, or special teams has a block punt, something like that, and gives the offense a cheap touchdown. But as far as driving the field, I think it's obvious by now that our offense is going to put up 17 to 27 points. We win last night by the score of 17 to 14. Syracuse missed a field goal with 43 seconds to go, and Clemson sneaks out another ugly win. But you can't get to 5 wins unless you get to 4 wins. So they're now 4-2 on the season, but they better hope they improve a lot, because they've got Pittsburgh coming up on the horizon, and we all know how good Pittsburgh's offense is. I'll be stunned if Pittsburgh doesn't score at least 24 points. And if they do, I think it might be another loss for the Tigers, because the way this offense has looked, I just don't know if they can put up 27 plus, even though Pittsburgh doesn't have a very good defense. You don't have to have a very good defense to stop Clemson right now. Their offensive line is doing good in the run blocking. Kobe Pace so far has impressed me. He's always been a backup, but we know ETN, he's in the NFL now. And of course, Malusi, he transferred to Wisconsin, and now Dixon's announced he's transferring, and now Shipley is hurt. So Pace is getting to play, and he averaged about 5.5 yards a carry last night. So he's doing a pretty good job. I've been impressed with him. But the offensive line is doing good run blocking, but for whatever reason, our pass blocking is just not good. We've also always had a deep threat, whether it was Mike Williams or T. Higgins or whoever. And this year, the offense just doesn't have a receiver that can consistently go down the field and get open. And we've always had those quick receivers like Artavis Scott and Ray from a few years back that could catch a pass and break a tackle and run 25 yards. We don't have that this year. And we always had a receiver, whether it was Grisham or Renfro or whoever you want to talk about, that on third down, they were going to get open. And this year, they don't have that. They have good receivers. They just don't have any consistent receivers. And then when they do get open, last night, I think it was the second drive of the game, Justin Ross was wide open. He could have caught the ball in Syracuse and ran to Buffalo without being touched, and he just dropped it. So the offense just can't get on the same page. But I think now that it's 6 games into the season and it's still this way, I think it's what we've got to expect. But as long as the defense still keeps playing so good, they'll win the majority of the games they have left. They're just not going to be pretty, and I think we can safely say if Clemson puts up 40 points in any game the rest of the year, with the exception of against UConn, it'll be a surprise. But hey, you're 4-2. That's better than being 3-3. Now on to today's games. Starting out at noon, we've got Central Florida going up against Cincinnati. And Central Florida has looked pretty good on offense this year, but they haven't really looked so good on defense. Hopefully they'll be able to keep that game close. We'll have to wait and see. Another game coming up at noon is number 12, Oklahoma State, going up against Texas. Now, of course, Oklahoma State has been a complete reversal this year from what they usually are. They've only scored more than 30 points one time this year, but they've only given up more than 20 points one time this year. Normally, they're all offense, no defense. This year, they're actually a really good defense and an average offense, but Texas is allergic to playing defense, so I think Oklahoma State will score today. But if you have not yet watched the Texas running back, Bijan Robinson, I highly encourage you to watch him. This kid is good. I know I said before the season that I think Matt Corral is going to win the Heisman, and I still think that, but Bijan Robinson is definitely a candidate. The kid's only a freshman, so I'll be surprised if a freshman wins the Heisman, but if he doesn't, he's still got at least 2 more years to win one, but he is incredible. I would say right now my top 5 Heisman contenders are Bijan Robinson, Matt Corral, Kenneth Walker, Kenny Pickett, and Bryce Young. Kenny Pickett, of course, is the quarterback for Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh only runs the ball 10 times a game, maybe, as far as, called run plays, not Pickett scrambling because the offensive line can't block, but a called run play, maybe 10 times a game. So he's putting up big numbers, and he is a good quarterback. And, of course, Bryce Young is going to be on the list. He's the quarterback for Alabama. As long as Nick Saban is there and Bama's a top 5 team, whoever their standout player is on offense is going to be a Heisman contender every year, whether it's quarterback, running back, or receiver. Their best player on offense is going to be a Heisman contender every year. That's just the way it is. And Kenneth Walker is also very good, but Michigan State's just not a brand name. So unless they finish undefeated, which is a possibility, and every other player on this list loses 3 or 4 games, I don't see him winning it. Just like before the season started, there was a lot of Clemson people talking about how good DJ is, saying that DJ has a chance to be the first ever Clemson player to win the Heisman, and I said, I don't see it. And it's not that DJ is not talented, but Clemson is just not a brand name. They're not. DJ could have 9,000 passing yards and 75 touchdowns, and he still would not win the Heisman. That's just my opinion. If he wins it one day, then maybe I'll say, hey, I was wrong. But I just don't think Clemson's a brand name like a Michigan or a Alabama or Ohio State. So I just don't see a Clemson player winning a Heisman. I'd love to see it, but I just don't think it'll happen. Same way with Kenneth Walker. He's an amazing running back, but I just don't think Michigan State has a big enough brand for him to win the Heisman. But he is good. But if you have not watched Bijan Robinson, I highly encourage you to at least watch some of that Oklahoma State-Texas game today. Also at noon, we have Auburn and Arkansas. They say that a lot of people are mad about Bo Nix's comments from last week. And from what I read, maybe I didn't read the entire article, but from what I read, he was honest and he was right, but at the same time, it didn't make a difference in the game. I've always said that officials, yeah, they make bad calls, and sometimes they're blatant bad calls, but they don't decide a game. No matter when the call happens, that one call does not decide a game. Also, at noon, we've got Florida and LSU. Of course, this game is intriguing because how many losses will LSU get this year? And is this going to be the final year of Ed Orgeron in Baton Rouge? It seems like every day now on every website, there's more and more people that are now saying it's going to be Ed Orgeron's last year. But my thing is, if it's this blatantly obvious to everybody that you're going to fire him, why wait until after the season to do it? Because if you go ahead and do it now, you can go ahead and start looking for your next head coach now. Because you can't make phone calls as long as Orgeron is still your head coach. So if you know you're going to do it, you might as well go ahead and do it. There's no reason to put off the inevitable. Just go ahead and do it and start your search for your next coach. Because it's obvious everybody knows you're going to do it. So if everybody knows you're going to do it, you're going to do it. The only thing that's going to save his job is maybe beating Alabama, but that's not happening. We can forget that. So that's the one thing that's going to save his job. You might as well just go ahead and terminate the guy. And then at 3:30, we've got Kentucky going up against Georgia. Of course, this will be the 3:30 CBS game. Everybody wants it to be a good game. I just don't see it. Kentucky has an average offense at best, and that's being kind. It's average at best. So as good as Georgia's defense is, I don't see Kentucky putting up more than 14. And I think Georgia will score at least 30-plus again. So I don't think it'll be close. But, I mean, it is the 3:30 national CBS game, so maybe it'll be close. Also at 3:30, you've got the number 2 team in the land, Iowa Hawkeyes, playing Purdue, or as we called them back when I was in high school, Purdon't, because they were so bad for so many years. But Purdue and Iowa was also a 3:30 game, so you have the number 1 team and the number 2 team playing at the same time. And then at 4 o'clock, we've got an intriguing game because it's the by far 2 worst teams in the SEC. So the loser of this game will finish dead last in the SEC. That's Vanderbilt and South Carolina. And even though South Carolina is terrible, I do think they are better than Vanderbilt. And then at 7 o'clock, we've got Alabama going up against Mississippi State. Hopefully, that'll be a good game as well. We know Mississippi State's going to throw the ball about 60 times. So maybe they'll keep that game close. And then at 7:30 tonight, we've got TCU going up against Oklahoma. And that game is intriguing because I'm anxious to see, is Oklahoma going to stick with the freshman who came off the bench last week and won the game for them? Or are they going to go back to Rattler? Because last year, we know Rattler lost his job, but then when Oklahoma got a couple of losses, he got his job back. Well, they haven't lost yet this year, but I believe if Rattler had stayed in the game last week, they would have lost. So, will they go back with Rattler, or will they stick with the freshman that won the game last week? I did read an article that said there's a car dealership somewhere in Oklahoma that's now mad because apparently they've either already given or are going to give Spencer Rattler 2 free cars, and now he's lost his job. So I want to see where this story goes because this may be the first, I'm not going to say downfall, but the first negative that we see from the name, image, likeness thing, because these players are getting these deals now based on what they might do. They're not like professional athletes where they're, going to get long-term contracts. They're just getting pretty much short-term contracts based on their potential. But sometimes potential can mean right now you suck. So this may be the first negative that we see in the name, image, likeness thing if Rattler does end up losing his job and not getting it back. So I'm very intrigued by that. Another 7:30 game that got my attention is Ole Miss and Tennessee. And the reason why it got my attention is because I know Josh Heupel is improving Tennessee's offense. It's gotten better every week this year. No reason to think it won't keep getting better. But their defense is not any good. And when I was watching the Clemson game last night, I saw on the bottom of the screen at halftime, when that game scrolled by, that Ole Miss is only a 2-point favorite. I even rewound it to make sure that I saw it correctly, and I did. And I just don't understand how Ole Miss can only be a 2-point favorite, because I think Ole Miss is going to put up 40 plus, and I just don't see Tennessee scoring that many points. But of course, Tennessee fans are excited about it because Lane Kiffin coached them for 1 year and then left to go to USC. But that's been over a decade ago, so it's time for them to get over it and let it go. But his dream job was USC, so he didn't do anything different than any other coach would have done if a position is open at your dream school. So, of course, he left. It was nothing against Tennessee. He just wanted to coach at his dream school. But, of course, he says he's changed. But you know how fans are. A lot of fans hold grudges for many, 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 many years. And a lot of UT fans are still mad about Lane Kiffin leaving them over a decade ago to go to USC. And another good game coming on tonight at 7:30 is NC State and Boston College. And the reason why this game is intriguing, obviously, is because since NC State beat Clemson, they're now in control of their own destiny. In the Atlantic part of the ACC, of course, they'll have to lose twice, and Clemson has to win out in order to try to keep their continuous streak going. As far as winning the ACC, they're at 6 straight right now, trying to make it 7. But NC State still has Wake Forest coming up, and of course Wake Forest is still undefeated, and NC State right now is undefeated in the ACC, so this game should be very good. Boston College only has 1 loss, and that was to Clemson 2 weeks ago, so this is a very important game for both teams because both teams still have a chance to win the Atlantic part of the ACC. If you're a baseball fan, coming up tonight, we've got Game 1 of the National League Championship Series, rematch of last year's NLCS, Braves against the Dodgers. The Braves have announced that Max Fried will start Game 1. The Dodgers have not announced who will start Game 1, but it's pretty much going to be Max Scherzer. Unless they do something strange, it's going to be Max Scherzer, and it should be Max Scherzer because without Kershaw, he is the next best option. Plus, he's pitched numerous big games in his career, so it's nothing new to Max. So you got college football all day long, and then you also have baseball coming up tonight. So enjoy all the action today. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I have not sold a single copy of my autobiography. That's the story of my life. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.